Stephen, I know enough about you to know that you've got some intentional habits here. I want to walk through, kind of get a behind the scenes with you. And to some extent, I mean, I know you have been where you are. You've been out of the story that we went through in our first show together. You haven't been homeless for a while. Yeah. I don't expect that you've thought about ending your life for quite a while. Those are in the past, but just, through that, as you had success, we actually ended the last show talking about, you talked about going from the evolution of working with your hands to your head to your heart. Now, you had some habits that helped you get to success with your hands into your head. You talked about that, and you even spent a decade there before really investing in your heart. So if there's been some evolution of some of these habits along the way, in accordance with that, I want to hear about them. So starting off, physical nutrition, you talked about, I could see you, that you're a fit looking dude. You talked about being in the gym. So tell me what you're doing physically, nutrition, exercise, diet, all that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, so obviously I learned about the Zig Ziglar Will of Life a number of years ago. Now, I hope I don't make Zig mad, but I added something to it. I added a spoke.
Awesome. Awesome.
I call it the contributional pillar. So I invented a word and everything like that. So it's the sense that you've got to have a place to put your focus that is a greater need than yourself. And I believe that wholeheartedly. When you grow up like I did and come through as much as I have, and there's a number of Americans that have just done that for sure. They're living it right now.
Yeah.
I've discovered that if I don't make it a daily practice, a daily routine, what we refer to internally as reinforceable routines. So, the routine itself reinforces you taking the action without you having to stop what you're doing and actually choose to take the action.
Okay.
And one of the things that I do a little bit differently, and I feel so far, I feel like I've been communicating this point to a lot of folks that I haven't heard communicated back to me yet, is if I use Zig's language, right? I actually choose a pillar a day to focus on.
Okay.
So here's what I mean by that. Every morning I wake up 5 a.m., 5:15, I'm just to be real, it's not exactly 5 o'clock on the dot.
Okay.
And then, I get up out of bed, but between 5 and 5:15 every morning, I start every single day off with prayer. Some would call it meditation, but I'm listening just as much as I'm speaking, right? I want to hear just as much as I'm asking. But rather than saying, God bless me, I'm saying, Lord, please put people in my path that I can impact. Lord, please put someone in my path that I can learn from today. Lord, please put someone in my path that I can inspire today or encourage today. And I start in that gratitude place because it just helps me kind of get my mind off all the junk that I may have to face, either coming out of yesterday or into today. And as a result, that gives me a place to kind of just put my mindset in ease. And as I'm doing that, and as I've been practicing doing that, I've learned that's one of the techniques that I've used to go from head or hand, head, heart.
Yeah.
Right. Most of us, if we're honest with ourselves, wake up. Sometimes we wake up late. We're in and out the door. We're not thinking. Maybe we grab our cup of coffee. Maybe we got kids to get to school. Most of us aren't actually going ahead and giving. And again, I'm a person of faith. Giving God his due diligence is first 15 or 20 minutes a day, right? And it takes a little while to do it repetitively and not lower your standards and allow yourself to skip out. Okay, so that's number one. The next thing I do specifically is I grab my gym bag and I'm heading to the gym. Okay, so. Of course, I've got a routine. Some days I'm doing back and buys, and other days I'm doing, chest and tries and all that kind of stuff. But more importantly, I'm trying to use that alone time to have alone time. I've got earbuds in my ear, and I've picked in your vernacular and Zig's vernacular, a will of life or a slice of the pie that I'm going to focus on that day. So I'm listening to an audiobook. I'm researching new content. I might be watching some YouTube videos or listening to a podcast specifically on, like, for Mondays, for example, for me, are emotional pillar. Okay. Emotional pillar to me, or the emotional slice, if you will, is going to be, how do I make sure I have a healthy identity? How do I make sure that I've got a healthy basis to deal with insecurities and things like that? How am I going to allow myself to be present in today? Right. So Mondays, I'm focused on the emotional pillar. I then will, I focus on learning content, digesting content. That's typically when I grab my iPhone and I'm going to town. I shared in the last show that, one of my most pivotal moments was what does it take to change the essence of a man? Right. So I'm firing on all cylinders. That's when I'm coming up with new quotes, or I'm jotting notes down about something I've learned, some great awakening or aha. And I've learned that curiosity and creativity allows for greater expansion, especially the more consistently I do it over and over and over again. All right. Well, on Tuesdays, I'm going to focus on my personal development pillar. Maybe I'm listening to Ramsey. Maybe I'm listening to this show. Maybe what am I going to do to kind of bring my overall level of awareness up to a higher standard, so I allow for less garbage, right? There's a big belief that, at least there's a belief that I subscribe to, that you are either programming your mind or someone else is programming it for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The only thing that separates that in the middle is the choice that you make for yourself. What goes in through your eyes and what goes in through your ears. Like, what are you watching? What are you reading? That kind of stuff. So I'm a big believer in nonfiction and healthy growth mindset stuff. Now, again, because I want to try to have I want to avoid the proverbial flat tire. I'm going to focus on one pillar a day, or what we refer to as a pillar, what you guys refer to as the slice of pie. So Tuesdays, again, is going to be personal development days. Wednesdays is my financial pillar. Okay. When I look at my resources that I have, how am I stewarding those resources? How am I deploying those resources? And how am I sowing those resources? Right. So deploying might be an investment or a spend. Developing might be more of a compounding effect. Right. Sowing might be something that I'm not necessarily expecting a financial return, but I am expecting an impact to be made.
Right.
Okay. And then I proceed to go through each one of those slices Monday through Sunday, which equals 7, of course. When you're like, well, Stephen, didn't you just say you added an 8th? Yes, I did. What I do is I look at all of those, and on a Sunday afternoon, I'm going to ask myself, what did I learn this week that I could help somebody else learn or help somebody else grow in their own path?
Right.
What did I learn? Not that I'm going to repackage it and sell it or whatever for my own benefit, but what did I learn this week that can offer value to someone else through my unique lens? We started doing Instagram stories recently, right? For the longest time, I'm like, why do people care what I'm eating or where I'm going, or I'm at the gym or whatever? But then I realized, well, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to share one or more most important moments this week with the audience that's chosen to follow. I want to make sure I'm constantly giving a value. And that's the only way I've been able to balance a constant developmental approach through all 7 slices, or again, I've referred to 8, all of those different areas on a consistent basis. Or if I remove myself from that, what inevitably happens is I get focused on 3 or 4 slices or 3 or 4 pillars, right, and then something falls apart. It's the only practice that I know that allows me to actually have a daily intentional focus for each one of those areas as a rule of thumb. Now, once I go through my personal time, I've already gone through my prayer and meditation. I've already gone through some developmental things, some content management. I'm going to be brokering my days or bucketing my days typically in 15 to 30 minute increments. Basically, I want to take the excuse of distraction away from myself.
Yeah.
And the only way I know to do that is to make sure that I bucket my day in such a way that allows me to have focused time on specific content, maybe specific team members, specific initiatives, specific customers, whatever we're doing internally. And I'm going to remove that distraction, or I'll be like everybody else. I'll be on Facebook. I'll be on social media. I'll be on YouTube, right? I allow myself an outlet for enjoyment, but I try to limit that enjoyment for basically an hour a day, tops. Because the average American spends 3 to 5 hours in unproductive behaviors on a consistent basis. And then they get to the end of the year and wonder why nothing changed.
Yeah. So
that's the nuts and bolts. Those are the things that I do consistently out of force of habit that has taken me from more of a tactical person to a strategical person, and now to what I hope is becoming a transcendent person.
And I like the focus of giving a day instead of trying to hit everything. I'm going to dig in on a couple of them there. One, the hour of enjoyment. I mean, the 7th spoke. Well, I use it as the 7th one, but the personal spoke. I usually end with that one, but since you just talked about the hour of enjoyment, is that, well, the personal, I have to look at self-care, play, fun, hobbies, however you want to term that thing, but the thing that you do just for you, just for joy, is that hour of enjoyment does it contain those things, or is that like some time? I give that time for entertainment, but there's some other things you do as well that fit into that. Yeah. Habits, fun, play bucket for Stephen.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be, I choose to do that on a daily basis because it's not really the work hard, play hard scenario, but it kind of is. Okay. It's like Connor, one of the young men on my team, he asks me all the time because I don't understand your work ethic and I don't understand your focus, your level of focus. And I told him on more than one occasion, my level of focus and my level of work ethic comes specifically out of knowing that if I don't do it this way with this reinforceable routine, I will get way off track. Okay. Now, when you go after it and you're learning and you're growing and you're doing and you're meeting and you're networking and you're launching a live event and you're doing all these different things, if you don't give yourself an outlet consistently, then whatever happens, you end up burnout, right? If you're burnout, you're going to be 50% less productive than you were if you had just taken a break for a few moments, right? And even in the Bible that God says on the seventh day, rest. Yeah. Right. My Orthodox Jewish friends won't even turn a light switch on. Yeah. Right. There's truth to that, right? There's nothing wrong with going after a life you love. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with becoming a better father, a better mother, a better husband, there's nothing wrong with that. But you can absorb yourself in such a negative way if you isolate yourself in that direction, right? So by having an outlet I can allow my brain to decompress. Yeah. That hour might be on, and I'll say this because there's two different things. Technically, it would be 2 hours a day, not 2 hours a day. It would be 5 hours a week, 6 hours a week, because I have coffee with my wife twice a week intentionally. Tuesdays and Thursdays is what we have coffee with Karen. Okay. Sweet. Now, I enjoy being around my wife. Okay. Now, I realize that not every spouse is going to say, I enjoy being around my spouse, but I would dare say that you would enjoy being around your spouse more if you actually had focused time to connect and you weren't distracted. Okay. Personal opinion, because it's what I've lived through. Right. On top of that, as an hour a day of enjoyment. And it might be on my drive home. I might actually have YouTube on the background. I'm watching some, I don't know, History Channel, something or other. It's not something that I'm looking to necessarily add value to someone else or add value to my life. It's surely for entertainment value. Okay. I do that because I believe that if you don't do that, you're going to get burnt out twice as fast. Yeah. Because you're not giving yourself room to breathe. And you end up getting that rat race. In the last show we talked about with my father, for example, how we get up at 5 a.m., he'd work his butt off. Yeah. And by the time he got home, he'd fall asleep in his chair and then scoot off to the bed. And I can't tell you how true that is for a lot of Americans around the country. Right. But there was no enjoyment phase. By the time he got in front of the quote unquote TV, 1 hour would turn into 3 hours and he was sleeping most of it. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So I think at the end of the day, I think there has to be an entertainment sector on a daily basis to allow you to dangle. It's almost like I kind of started using it as a reward system. Mm-hmm. Like if I busted it during the course of the day, mm-hmm. maybe I got done a little early, then I could go and spend an extra 20 minutes and just something fun. I've also found that in many cases that becomes one of the strongest reflection timeframes because I'm not trying. Yeah. I'm not trying to create. I'm not trying to connect. I'm not trying. I'm just being. I'm just being. And I think there's a lost art of just being.
Yeah, I agreed. Stephen Kotler, I had on the show months back, and it actually was not in the show. It was later. And it just hit me because I was getting ready to go on a solo getaway, which I do mm-hmm. pretty consistently. And he talked about giving ourselves the time to have just an emotional break, almost an emotional mm-hmm. sabbatical. Man, that stuck with me because it really met why I do have these times where I just take off. Oh, I appreciate what you said. I'm not trying. I'm just being. And so I want a little bit of that every day. And that I also will take, significant times away, on this. Do you have any, and there's plenty of business people that enjoy so much what they're doing that they don't, but do you have any specific, hobby and interest, you'll fishing or play golf or do something like that?
What's really funny is the older I get, and the more time I spend trying to use my heart, what I actually enjoy most is probably quiet time. I legitimately enjoy it. We've been talking, during the show, and I've been taking notes just as much as I've been talking. right? I like information, not from a high C type critical style, but I like, it's almost like stopping and smelling the roses. Like I like to slow things, because I'm a, there's a theology in the disc scenario. I'm what's called a 99D. Like it probably goes to 110. They could probably make me go to 110. Like I'm a very driven individual. Okay. And one of the most difficult things that I struggle with a lot as a person, even now to this day, is slowing down.
Yeah.
But yet I realize that when I do slow down and I allow for room, I enjoy what that room produces.
Yeah.
Right. Again, going back to that question, what does it take to change the essence of a man? That was because I was in a mode I had to slow down. So rather than being forced to slow down, I've chosen to slow down. And it creates that margin and space where sometimes the most difficult questions in life actually gets answered.
Yeah.
And my grandfather, would say, be still. Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I am God. Be still. Mm-hmm. Which is pretty difficult for an ADHD kid, but hey, I give it a shot.
Well, yeah. Well, no, you remind me of my dear friend, co-host on my True Life podcast, Dr. Randy James, and he talks about the hard work of relaxation. Actually, he came up with that as he and I were talking about. It was a time when I realized I don't play. I don't play anymore. I'm addicted to production and I don't play. And he said, let's practice the hard work of relaxation. And I appreciate you bringing that up. I mean, so you're taking these focal points every day, and yet during the day though, you still have your specific things that you're not going to miss. You talked about that. You get up, you have your quiet time. You are going to exercise. You are going to do, X, Y, Z. And I actually wanted to come back to the gym. So it sounds like weightlifting is kind of your gig there. But regardless of that, as a business guy, it occurred to me many years ago when I was working with people who wanted to pursue business and realized how often they did not have the energy at the end of the day, the end of the weekend. And I realized that the business people that I knew generally put their physical wellness as a top priority so that they could get out of stuff. So is that the motivation for you? Is there any specific motivation? Have you always been a fitness guy, or is that something that came in as you saw the benefit and what it allowed for you?
I'd like to answer that question if I get permission to share a quick story, if that's all right.
Please.
So it was, I mentioned in the last show about the importance of Steve Myer, one of my first and greatest mentors in my life. I've had lots of fantastic mentors, some well-known, some not. Steve was obviously not someone that was super well-known, except that he's known every time I grace the show now, but it was about 2003 and Steve had unfortunately had both knees replaced. Now, when he went in to go get his knees replaced, he didn't realize that a month or so later, he'd be fighting for his life, right? Because he contracted pneumonia. And I went in to go see him with my father, and we walked up to the bed, right? And Steve's lying there in a gurney. He's got an oxygen mask on his face. He's clearly frail. I mean, he didn't look like himself. His skin tone wasn't like it normally was or nothing like that. And my dad was trying to, I think, love on Steve the best way he knew how. He was, Steve, you've built, I don't know, thousands of communities all over Raleigh. You're a #1 home builder in North and South Carolina. You traveled all over the world. You've made millions of dollars. And about the time millions of dollars rolled off his tongue, Steve literally barely picked up his arm, pulled the oxygen mask off his face, and he said, "What good is $1 million when I have no health?" He put the mask back on his face and put his arm back down. It taught me a pretty valuable lesson. And I didn't equate it to business directly, but I did equate it to understanding that life is about choices and consequences and perspective. And while I'm a very driven individual, I also understand that my body needs proper blood flow, proper hydration, proper nutrition. And people that I've followed that don't have a way of believing about their hydration or their nutrition or their physicality or their working out or stuff like that. In almost every case, the stress that comes around with being a top producer, top performer, business owner, aspiring entrepreneur, all of that raises the cortisol level in such a way that it literally begins to break down muscle tissue, right? As you break down muscle tissue, your diet then influences your arteries, and then your arteries start to clog. And the next thing you know, you're at risk for a stroke, you're at risk for a heart attack, you're at risk for an aneurysm, you're at risk for all these different things that if you just do a little bit each day, in many cases, you can keep yourself out of that gurney. Or you can chase everything that the world has to offer and not take this vessel seriously. And the next thing you know, the vessel will be taken away from you, and then you have nothing, right? So for me, working out is just as much about health, but it's also just as much about basically taking care of the vessel that I've been given, right? Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's an important piece.
Yeah. No, we talk so much, if we go to the faith-based, arena, about being a good steward, and we think about finances and, Dave Ramsey and being a good steward of our money, a good steward of our family, a good steward of what we've been given. And so seldom, I think, related to what you said, the vessel.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate that quote you gave from Steve on, what does $1 million matter if I don't have my health? I'm going to put you on the spot. Now, I don't think you care. You're game for that. But in the first show, actually, I ended with you answering the question, which folks go listen to the first show and you can hear the answer. But the best predictor of how far your business will go. But also what we talked about in there, the statement you made, an entrepreneur can't build a business without first building themselves. So to take kind of both of those captive, and as we're looking at habits, and because the Ziglar wheel of life, and you've added, to that, when you look at so many people who are in business, wanting to pursue business out there, to put a couple habits. I mean, I know we can put big things out there, character traits and some big ideals out there. But if you look at some of the core habits that you've learned down, I used to tell this, if you're on stage, you got 1,000 people to talk to, and you got, 2 minutes, if you're going to say, hey, here's a couple of the key habits that you are not going to let go. Sometimes I've asked people that, Stephen, for you, on a day when, man, you are maxed out, it's going to be one of your busy days, but there are some habits you are not going to let go of. I'm going to connect that too with what you would say, if you are out there and you want to make it happen business-wise, let's give a focus there. What are the top habits that come to mind?
Before I answer that, I want to share one quick thing. When it comes down to it, the best way to say this is that, and so in the thought leadership space, people use email automation systems, or in accounting, you have automation systems. You have these automation systems. Right. What I've tried to do to the best of my ability is to automate the most important actions. Okay. Right. So one of the things that I would tell you that is one of the most important habits that I've got is obviously the waking up and the thought leadership and the prayer and meditation phase. That's an absolute for me. And the reason it's an absolute for me is because experience has taught me that when I'm disconnected from that, I'm disconnected from everything else. The days are tougher, and building a business or starting a new job or being a professional is already hard enough. It's already hard enough to not compound how you deal with stressors and things like that. Okay. So I wanted to preface that by saying, what can you do to make the most important actions automatic? Okay. Simple ones, setting an alarm. Okay. I got a good friend of mine. In fact, I would recommend it for your show any day of the week, but his name's Eric Partaker. Sorry. Yeah. Eric was a key instrumental person in building out Skype. Now he's over in the UK, but he actually taught me this new technique, that one of his books called The 3 Alarms. He actually has in his phone every single day an alarm that goes off that basically reminds him that he's trying to be super dad. or super business or super focused. And he discovered that because he had a heart attack on an airplane and almost died in a flight across the country. So I've tried to take that habit to remind myself to keep the proper perspective. So step one is set your day up with basically a time frame that you can pray, meditate, and take care of your body. Okay. Take care of your mind, body, spirit kind of scenario, first thing in the morning. The second thing is what can I automate? What reminder can I set within my phone, within an app, to remind myself to be grateful and present, or something, something that remind me to put my most important priorities in front of me, regardless of how my day goes.
Yeah.
I hope I'm articulating this right. The third thing is this is something I had to learn how to do because in the construction field, which is, 4 of my businesses that I own are construction related, and, they construct properties or they put components on properties that are being constructed. It's a very stressful professional career in that segment. And I still own all the businesses today. So I'm still actively engaged in these businesses. One of the things I've had to remind myself to do is what I refer to as a brain dump, right? So before I go into my house and see my family, because I don't want to wake up I don't want to be on my phone. Like, I don't want to walk in the house and be on my phone when my kids who are now basically adults and my wife's trying to connect with me. I don't want them to think I'm ignoring them. I'm not saying I'm perfect at this. I still mess up, but this is my fix for that. Yeah. Okay. I'll do a brain dump so I don't have that, oh my God, I got to check my phone. Oh my God, I got to go to my emails. Oh my God, what used to really hurt me is I wake up 2 a.m. Oh my God, I forgot to order the material. Oh my God, I forgot to call the customer back. Right. The quickest way to set the tone for the evening so you can actually get the decompression you need for the evening is to do what I refer to as a brain dump. It's simple. I grab a notepad and a pen, or sometimes I'll use my iPhone, and it's not necessarily a journal as much as it is. These are the items that I know I need to take care of that need to be prioritized, but they don't need to be prioritized when I need to spend time with my family, when I'm eating and resting and sleeping. And you see what I'm saying? So 2 things happen when you do that. First of all, you go in and you're able to be present, which a lot of people who have professional careers have a really hard time being present in today's time frame. Okay. So that's an easy win right there. Super easy win. The next thing it does is it makes sure that you wake up the next day ready and refreshed, because you're not having to auto generate, after you had a bad dream or some weird dream about walking on the ceiling or in the clouds or something. No, now I got to, you're taking all the stuff that's typically spinning in your head, and you're getting it out where you can actually look at it on a notepad and a pen, with iPhone or physical, whatever. And now you can prioritize. You can use Covey's, quadrants or any number of different ways to bucket and determine your priorities. So let's look at that just for a second. It allows you to be more present with your family. It allows you to be more focused for tomorrow, which means you also increase productivity, which means your return on time is greater, right? My good friend Rory Vaden would say that he tries to look at things that multiply time, energy, and resource, right? And I love that because that's a technique that I've been doing, not realizing I've been doing it. And then, his book, Take the Stairs, he talks a lot about how to break that down even further. But everything should be about how do you multiply your time, how do you multiply your resource, and how do you multiply your impact? Yeah. And that was a simple step to begin to set my days up in motion, where dominoes are now falling for me rather than on top of me. Yeah. So I hope that's a long-winded answer, but that's
I appreciate it. And I think my takeaway from there, I like the reminding myself of, a character thing or a behavior thing or a being thing. And my wife, some of my kids keep saying, "Hey, get a tattoo." They think it's cool. They have some, and I just haven't found one. But the only ones that I've ever thought of are things that I just want to remember. Kevin, stop trying to be super dad. Quit the God complex. Just chill out. So I like the idea. I've never committed to a tattoo, but I can do an alarm on the phone.
There you go.
I appreciate it. No, I appreciate how you answered those. This has been a different habit show. People will recognize that in how you approached it. And I really like those 3 things. That may even be something I start and saying, okay, folks, if you got just a moment, what are the top ones you want to let people know? So, and thank you again, just a gift to get a behind the scenes from you, and just continually inspired by your heart coming after your hands and your head. Stephen, man, thank you so much.
Sincerely, my pleasure, man. Anytime. See you, Kevin.